The value of a Formula One entry has escalated to the point that some teams are turning down bids for over $1 billion. According to Stefano Domenicali, CEO of the Formula One Championship, due to the Concorde agreement, this has created issues between teams looking to join and the current teams on the grid. Will there ever be more than 10 teams on the grid? This is the issue that emerges. The value of Formula One teams has significantly increased in recent years, to the point that certain teams are now receiving bids totaling virtually billions of dollars. The growth in club valuations has given the sport possibilities as well as difficulties. There is a lot of discussion among stakeholders about whether there will ever be more than 10 teams on the grid. Several important elements have contributed to the evolution of F1 teams into healthier and more successful enterprises. The introduction of a budget cap in 2021, which set a restriction on how much money clubs could spend on operations, changed the game for the sport. Due to this, the playing field has been leveled, and the sport has become more intense. Additionally, teams now earn a fair portion of the revenue regardless of how well they do on the track, thanks to the redistribution of prize money included in the revised commercial agreement. These techniques have assisted teams in efficiently managing costs and maximizing their revenue. Recent major agreements provide evidence of the rise in team values. A prime illustration of the sport's escalating worth is MSP Sport Capital's purchase of a 33% ownership position in McLaren Racing for £185 million. The desirability of F1 teams as investment prospects is further highlighted by Audi's acquisition of 3/4 of Sauber. Williams and AlphaTauri, among other teams, have seen their valuations rise to astonishing heights of almost $1 billion apiece. This pattern highlights the growing financial allure of F1 teams to stakeholders and investors. The F1 market has changed, going from selling teams for little to nothing to currently drawing billion-dollar offers, which is evidence of the sport's increasing popularity and financial success. With the rights to F1, Liberty Media has a new outlook and a strong focus on turning underperforming teams into more successful enterprises. The worldwide popularity of the Netflix series Drive to Survive has been a major factor in elevating F1's profile and luring new partners. Due to the rising demand for Formula One, the sport has become more popular, creating a seller's market. The CEO of Formula One, Stefano Domenicali, understands the significance of promoting growth and competitiveness while also ensuring equity among the current 10 teams. The number of teams on the grid in the future will depend on the ongoing negotiations concerning the Concorde agreement, which is due to expire in 2025. A key component of these negotiations will be finding a balance between the needs of the present teams and the possibility of new formidable competitors. The logistical difficulties associated with increasing the grid are highlighted by Christian Horner's worries about fitting extra teams in the paddock. The infrastructure may need to undergo considerable alterations in order to accommodate additional teams, because the sport is developing and paddock space is currently at a premium. This can entail going through the pit lane layout again, determining the best place for motorhomes and support paddocks, and making sure that everything runs well on race weekends. To enable the efficient functioning of an extended grid, several issues must be resolved. Teams now face a whole new set of issues when it comes to managing their human resources as a result of the cost constraint. The salary cap does not apply to the top 3 employees of each team, but it does apply to everyone else who is engaged in the development, manufacture, and operation of the vehicles. This calls for careful resource management on the part of teams in order to stay within the budgetary allotment while maintaining the knowledge and expertise required to be competitive. Some teams have transferred important technical experts to other projects, in order to explain each team member's contribution to the cap, which has affected the dynamics of the team and may have diminished their knowledge. Even though there was initial anticipation regarding the addition of another team to the F1 grid in 2026, the present team's resistance to do so has resulted in a standstill on that front. There are signs, though, that things could have picked up speed once more. In an interview with the Associated Press, FIA President Mohammed bin Salam explained why they can't simply reject a new entrant into Formula One. He emphasized that the procedure for submitting expressions of interest is thorough and that teams cannot be barred from participating as long as they meet the requirements. Previously, the current teams and Liberty Media, the company that owns the commercial rights to Formula One, were not in favor of adding a new team to the grid. In light of GM's status as an original equipment manufacturer and their expertise in technology and marketing, the cooperation between Andretti and GM is significant for Formula One. The entry of GM on the grid is seen as a positive move for Formula One, despite conversations perhaps including some controversy and negotiations with current teams. More OEMs, especially ones from the United States, may be good for the sport. Formula One may experience an infusion of new rivals as negotiations progress, greatly enhancing the sport's attractiveness and popularity. Let's explore the candidates who could join F1 in the coming years. Ford, one of the biggest automakers in the world and a significant participant in the US, has a fascinating F1 past. The corporation sees opportunity in the new engine formula's sustainability focus as well as F1's rising appeal, particularly in the US. A connection with Red Bull looks like a potential possibility for any sponsorship or engine branding deals Ford may be looking to secure. Porsche still sees F1 as a viable alternative, despite its failed discussions with Red Bull for cooperation in 2026. Honda continues to investigate a potential comeback despite its announced departure from Formula One at the end of 2021. The business has expressed interest in the 2026 engine rules, which suggests a potential payout. Honda's emphasis on environmentally friendly technology is in line with F1's long-term goals, making it a desirable option for the sport. The ability to strike the appropriate balance between expansion and sustainability will determine Formula One's future. Potential investors and new teams have expressed a lot of interest in the sport due to its rising value and popularity. However, any grid increase must take into account the practical difficulties and the requirement to preserve a competitive and thrilling racing environment. Future conversations over the Concorde Agreement renewal will be essential in deciding how Formula One develops and whether there will be more than 10 teams on the grid in the coming years.